Good evening and welcome to the regularly scheduled board meeting for Ventura Unified School District. I'm calling this meeting to order at 5:30. Do we have any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okay, so do I have a motion to adopt the agenda as presented?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, and we will now go into closed session where we will discuss public employee dismissal, discipline dismissal release pursuant to Government Code 54957B. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
And my apologies, I skipped item number 4, public comment on closed session items, but I don't see anyone here to offer public comment. So with that, we are adjourned to closed session. Hi, good evening, and thank you for joining us for the regularly scheduled board meeting for Ventura Unified School District. My name is Sabrina Rodriguez. I'm currently serving as board president. The board has just returned, and we are now in regular session. If you would please join me in standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready, begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Mr. Peterson, would you like to do our acknowledgement?
Yes. Let's see, testing. Can you hear me? All right. This month we celebrate Black History Month by honoring historical figures in American history and by celebrating the achievements and success of all African Americans. This month is an opportunity to express our gratitude and acknowledge the importance and presence of African American colleagues, faculty, staff, and students here at Ventura Unified District. Their hard work and dedication offers a unique perspective that contributes to the function of the district and the future of every student.
Thank you.
It's great to be able to celebrate. Oops, sorry. Great to be able to celebrate all of us together. Ms. Dawn, would you please do roll?
Sure, I'd be happy to. President Sabrina Rodriguez.
Here.
Vice President Dr. Jerry Dannenberg.
Here.
Trustee Miss Amy Callahan.
Here.
Trustee Mr. Calvin Peterson.
Here.
Trustee Mr. James Forsyth.
Here.
Superintendent Dr. Antonio Castro.
Here.
Student Board Member Nathan Arthur.
Here.
And Student Board Member Gino Caceres.
Here.
Thank you.
Great, thank you. Student Board Member Mateo Navarro is not able to be with us tonight. Report of action taken in closed session. There was no action taken tonight in closed session. And that brings us to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Rodriguez. First, I would like to acknowledge we are approaching the middle of National School Counseling Week. We'd like to appreciate our school counselors and everything that they do, serving our students, their fellow faculty, and then the families that we work with. So thank you very much for your service. We would like to be able to move on to gratitude awards. So Marianne, if you would. You'll see on the screen the list of those who were recipients, and every time we meet, we take the opportunity to just draw attention to a few of our recipients. So I'll first start with Camille Mendoza, who is a teacher at Sunset. She was noted as being incredibly compassionate, understanding, caring, respectful, and helpful. The person who wrote the recommendation stated that she treated her daughter with the utmost respect, continued to offer to help in multiple ways to ease her transition to being new at the school. There's some more details here about a loss that was experienced, but I'm just sharing that portion because the type of compassion that was shared in here is something that we would all like to aspire to. So thank you, Ms. Mendoza, for the way that you made that student comfortable. The next individual that I'll bring attention to is Ann Selby at Citrus Glen. She was also recognized as creating a welcoming classroom, making learning fun for students. She joins them by singing and dancing with them, is an amazing storyteller, but still has high expectations for students and helps the students figure out how to get along with one another and to be able to find themselves in the school and with their families. And last, we have Gloria Cervantesi, is a clerical staff member at Portola, and she is noted as being incredibly knowledgeable, caring of students and staff, and if she doesn't have an answer, she's the kind of person that will find it and get it back to you. So thank you for these three individuals, but to all of those who are recognized for our gratitude awards this month. Thank you for who you are and the way that you do your business.
Great, that brings us to our student board reports. Nathan, are you up for going first?
All right, you ready? Okay. My name is Nathan. I'm the student board member for Buena. So to start it off, we had our Not So Silent Night. Can you hear me, by the way? Okay, can you hear me? Okay, I just can't tell. Yeah. Okay. We had the Not So Silent Night concert on December 14th that showcased all of Buena's music classes. That included choir, strings, jazz band, wind ensemble, marching band, and then various solo artists. So that that really highlights the performing arts part of Buena that is very, very talented. I have gone to a lot of their events, and it's just crazy to see how talented they are. Tickets were free, but merchandise and food were being sold outside the auditorium, and that had a lot of sales. The night was a great success with a large and lively audience, and then this performance was Buena Marching Band's first indoor performance, and their performance acted as a perfect conclusion to this concert. This is also an annual staple of every year. So, the next thing we have is the Holiday Spirit Week. This preceded the winter holidays, so this was from the week of December 12th to December 16th. Each day in the week preceding the winter break had a theme. So Monday was Color Wars that had seniors wear red, juniors wear green, sophomores wear white, and then freshmen wear blue. So the Christmas colors, generic Christmas colors. And then Tuesday had Ugly Sweater Day. Wear your best ugly sweater. I tried. It was very itchy, so I had to I had to take it off. It was itching me to death. And then Wednesday was Woke Up Like This Wednesday, which is wear your pajamas. Thursday was Festive Hat Day, so I was playing. I wore a red Santa hat. I don't know what it's called, but it's the red one with the little white ball. And then Friday is Flannel Friday, and I again wore my pajamas because they're flannel, and so did a lot of other people. Any chance to wear your pajamas is the opportunity. It had a really positive turnout, and particularly that was with passing out our hot chocolate on Wednesday. Who doesn't want to go to school in pajamas and then have hot chocolate? That was like the best day of Buena I think I've ever had. And then that also boosted the campus culture and then the climate for the day and then for the rest of the week. For Avid College Week, we partnered with Avid. It was an ASB Avid collaboration, and we held a College Spirit Week to celebrate and promote college application season. Thank the Lord that's over. I think every senior in here can agree that is over. Also congratulations to Mateo, because he mentioned he got into Brown. That is very happy that he got into Brown. That's amazing school. Yeah, amazing school. I wish he was here, because I would have mentioned it to him. But I hope he's watching it. So the Spirit Day was as follows. PJ Day. You already know how I feel about that one. Tuesday, student-teacher swap day. So your teacher dresses like how you would, and then the student dresses how the teacher would. Wednesday, we had college swag day, where your favorite college. Thursday was dress for success, and then Friday was bright future day. And you can see a picture to the right, and that was just one of the days. We had also gave out ice cream to seniors that proved they had applied to at least one college. So we had Mr. Softy come. They were right by the student lot, and you just showed maybe an email or like a confirmation that you applied to a college. So just trying to encourage students to get out there and apply to higher education, which is one of the initiatives that Buena has taken. For the Buena versus Ventura basketball game, I am upset. Yeah, that's the real reason. The annual Buenaventura game happened on January 4th. It was at Ventura's gym. Very disappointing, though, because we won on their court. But we would have won on our court anyway. And then it was an exciting game with a big turnout. And for the PIQE parent workshops, this is a very, very exciting family engagement workshop. The last meeting was on January 12th. It democratizes access to resources and information about college, which is so amazing to see because we have at Buena a lot of socioeconomically disadvantaged students, and PIQE workshops allows greater accessibility to information about college where they might not have had that. Outcomes include a successful transition to higher education from high school, academic success and career readiness, and it also includes information about financial aid and campus resources. So providing support to students where it's needed. And I think that's also a strength of VUSD, and then Buena is trying to emphasize that. For elective visits to Balboa, the Buena High School elective departments visited the BMS campus, which is luckily like a 1-minute drive. Or, 1-minute walk. Sorry. It's probably a longer drive because that Hill Street or whatever it's the traffic on that street. It hosted a diverse range of clubs and other school site organizations. You can see in the picture, it was Buena Music Association. That was a big one that was being presented. Behind the poster is Mr. Rumanap, who is the director of the Buena Music Association at Buena. And it's one of our best and brightest organizations on our campus, known as the Pride of the Gold Coast. It gets a lot of students in 8th grade, even 7th grade and 6th grade prospects who may not know a lot about school programs as you go into high school. It gives them the opportunity to get involved and get exposed to opportunities that they may want to be a part of as they grow up and go into high school. And then the point of this, one of them, is we hope to boost our club and organization numbers in the incoming school year. We want all students to feel involved, and clubs are a big part of feeling involved in the school campus. For cheer camp, this is an annual thing we do. It just happened. It was when Buena Cheer, the team, hosts a mini Bulldog camp for young and prospective cheerleaders. It's shown in the picture. You can see how happy they are. The annual tradition is, like I said, a staple. For many reasons, it's a successful fundraiser. It exposes the youthful prospects who want to be cheerleaders when they're older to what it actually entails, and then they even get offered the opportunity to be a part of a real game, which is really cool. The next slide, my favorite thing that we have done so far is we gave out bracelets to people with perfect attendance for the first quarter. Feels so long ago. But with this year's moving fast. But yeah, for the first quarter, we gave out attendance bracelets. They were Pura Vida, so they're quality. They're the quality ones. They were the blue, white, and gray. Bracelet is for Buena Colors, of course. And these were delivered in 4th period classes with a special note that congratulates them for their scholarly achievements. Mass marketing projects such as this are initiatives that Buena High School ASB has taken to motivate students to pursue academic greatness. And then, as I was talking about, the 2023-2024, oh no, I wasn't talking about this. I don't know why I just thought I was. Sorry. For the 2023-2024 ASB application season, it has just concluded. It was due in late January, and the application process has become a part of the ASB. I'm so sorry. What in the world? Oh, I missed a word. To become a part of the ASB student body came to a close. So this year's application season was very productive, and we expect a vibrant and spirited incoming leadership class to come up with new ideas on how to support our students, come up with new activities, and emphasize the board priorities of the Ventura Unified School District. Elections are currently underway, and our results are set out to be February 16th, so that's coming up in 9 days. So that's going to come out during BARC, which is our enrichment period, and then we will know who our senior class president, ASB vice president, who our ASB officers are going to be. So, a reflection on semester 1. It was a heartwarming increase in school spirit, activities, and cultural participation. I think coming back from my 11th grade, from the 2021-2022 school year, it was a difficult transition. It was a confusing transition coming from online, where obviously school spirit, it was unfortunately not able to be expressed. And you really saw the return of students wanting to bring that school spirit back to life this year through whatever it may be. So like the homecoming game, amazing neon spirit section. It's just heartwarming to see the school spirit come back after it took a very long pause. We also have site improvements and renovations, such as new murals on the BHS campus and over 20 hydration stations to ensure students consume enough water throughout the day, and contributes to the vision of Buena and its leadership, as well as the district for its priorities for this year and many more to come. So renovations, school spirit, all things that we are looking at for this year and next year, and years to come, of course. So I just talked about semester 1. Looking to the future, Very, very close is in 11 days. Senior Ball. It's going to be at the Crown Plaza. Definitely a really cool venue. We haven't had the opportunity to do it at the Crown Plaza at any time in the past. And so now we're obviously expanding our horizons and trying Crown Plaza, which I believe is going to be very, very cool. For Renaissance Rally, that happens on February 15th, even closer. We celebrate students who had academic achievement for semester 1 or had academic growth from quarter 1 to quarter 2, which is semester 1. So acknowledging growth and acknowledging excellence. And then on January 9th, we had a financial aid parent workshop. Oh, that was supposed to be in the semester 1. Yeah, anyways, but I will talk about this because this was very important. Financial aid parent workshop was on January 9th. Like I was saying, the Buena population, I believe 56% of us come from disadvantaged backgrounds. And I think one of the barriers to higher education and going on to better things is the financial aspect of things. So Buena holding financial aid parent workshops is very, very important to students and the parents and the families of the students, because it offers opportunities that they can't have if they don't receive financial support. So democratizing that financial support. I want to give a big thanks to the College and Career Department at Buena, because they do a very, very good job at giving students opportunities that they otherwise wouldn't have had. And then we are also wrapping up our senior submissions for grad packs from Jostin. So ordering your graduation robe, your stoles. It's a very exciting time of the year. And one thing that's not on here, but I do want to talk about, we are also, in terms of looking to the future, we just started the ECOA project that is sponsored by the Merida Foundation. So that stands for Energy Efficiency to Mitigate Climate Change and Ocean Acidification. It's a local environmental initiative that deals with 4 targets: energy reduction, water conservation, waste reduction, and then Matilaha Dam removal awareness. It's a student competition where you can get in groups of up to 5, and the students who have the best projects within these programs that hit these 4 targets, you can choose one of them, but I guess it could hit both or all of them. Would receive a cash prize. So it incentivizes students to go out and contribute and give back to their community. And I am actually am part of the groups that is competing, so I hope to give you a nice update on that the next time that I come back here, because it is very exciting. The awards would be announced May 1st, which is the day before the AP Environmental Science exam. What's the word I'm looking for? Very
timely.
Yeah, that's the word. And yeah, that's Buena's report.
Great. Wow. Thank you. Lots of good stuff.
Thank you.
Gino, you're up. Yeah. Want to tell us what's going on at Pacific?
Hello. So I'm going to give you the semester 1 wrap up. If you can go back to the first slide. To start us off, we kind of have a little bit of a grim start. Pacific High School, we have had a dark time this start of the year. We had lost 3 students, and I'm not going to say their names due to respect of their families. I'm not too sure if they want to be talking about it. And I was wondering if we could just give a moment of silence for those families.
Absolutely.
All right. Now, on to a little bit brighter of our first semester, or our starting our second semester, but wrapping up our first. We had a few graduates, early graduates. Elisa, I always mess up this name. Agavo, Aubrey Burnett, Janice Mambella, and Luis Cervanto. They were early graduates, and they're all seniors. It is a possibility at our school to do that because we have the ability to test out and to do Edgenuity a lot. This is Ms. DePaulo's kind of a summary report on workplace relationships. She pretty much says in her report how it is good for there to be good relationships in the workplace. It helps people work better It has a better kind of culture within everything. And it's just a lot better place. You want to come to work, and it's not a dread for you to go to work, and you want to be there as much as you can because you have relationships with everyone there, and there's nothing bad about it. So it's a little bit better to have that kind of climate when you go to work, because sometimes work can be dreadful. Now, ASB. I didn't put everything in the slides that ASB has done and is doing, but this is definitely one of the biggest things that we're doing, and hopefully we're going to do bigger this semester. These are necessity bags that we made for people in need. We partnered with Project Understanding and the Rotary Club and Interact to pretty much get these bags, make these bags, prepare them, and give them out to the people in need who needs them. We got money from a fundraiser we did where we made pumpkins. Pretty sure I've talked about it at some point. And we made around $6,000 from that, so we used a good portion of that money to these bags. And we're hopefully can do some good in our community, have people worry less on some of the things that they have to worry about already. Some more stuff the ASB has done. We are kind of wrapping up Q2 in the Renaissance. We're doing a assembly soon. And we just got a new batch of ASB, so that is kind of fun. We get to teach all of them how to do the stuff, and most people come into ASB thinking it's going to be a little bit easier. And then the first day for semester 2, we just got straight to work. Everyone was kind of just shocked. I was helping lead everything. I was helping everybody out. It was a lot of fun to see all these people kind of like scatter and then just all get together, and we're doing great. And it's really good. I think that should be good for right now, ASB. After school program. We do a lot here. So we are starting to do laser printing, and that's going to be something we're going to be giving out for Renaissance that we're using as a school project to kind of help people learn how to laser print. And if you can see Miss Bento right there, she's one of my favorites. She laser printed a shark logo with sharks on one of her jackets. And then we also have art and music. You can play the piano, there's guitars, there's paints. We even have video games. And we're trying to do a lot with that because we have a lot of gamers at our school. And the next slide, we are bringing esports leagues to our school.
How cool.
We don't have the luxury to have, your normal high school sports, so we take it online. We got Nintendo games, and honestly, they're kind of fun. If you go to Pacific, there's some good games right there. This should be fun. I mean, if Buena and Ventura want to compete with us, we have a good esports team. This is our MSO program. This is one of our students, David. He is doing great right now. He has done some stuff in the CTE programs, and he's even in our English class with Ms. Elliott. Here he is with Mr. Thompson, Officer Thompson, and here he is eating a carrot that he got from one of the farm programs that we have at our school. This is Edgenuity and prescriptive testing. These are just some credits earned. You can pretty much do whatever you need. If you have been in a class and you have retained the information you have the ability to try to test and challenge if you can see if you can pass to pretty much get that class out of the way so you can keep on building credits, because that's our main goal. We want every student to get credits as much as you can and hopefully graduate early or have a short day. And we are doing great right now, and we just got a new batch of seniors. It is a lot of work, but all the teachers are putting together, all the counselors are doing great, and we're going to get those students graduated. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Gina. That's fantastic. I look forward to watching you guys play against Buena and Ventura in your esports league.
I think we need to have our own league. We'll be a contender, the board.
Sorry, I got off my page here. Okay, so in terms of correspondence, I do have a letter that was included in the agenda that was sent to us by the Ventura County Office of Education. They have reviewed our first interim report for the school district ending October 31st of 2022. And they have determined that it complies with the criteria and standards established by the state Board of Education, and they have identified for us that we do need to make some structural changes in our spending moving forward. A copy of this is included for all of you in your agenda and is available to the public. And they did make a positive certification of our first interim budget report. That brings us to public comments. I have 1, 2, 3, 4 public comments. If anyone else would like to submit a card, now is your time. Up first, I have Anthony Ventura, followed by Heather Lacayo, followed by Jen Schwarzentruber. Did I get that right? And Cherie Egbert. So, Mr. Ventura. Okay, thank you. So that means you're up, Miss Lacayo.
Refrain. Contain. I don't know.
Girl Scout cookie selling.
Oh my, by the way.
I'm not even, okay. I'm not joking, they're in my car. On TV, yes. Can I show the QR code? All right. I do not have my, okay, ready to go. Okay. Hello, everyone. I am Heather Lacayo. I am a parent. I am a substitute teacher. I am a Girl Scout cookie mom. I am here. I attended the LCAP meeting in November, and I was unfortunately not able to attend on Tuesday. And I found out some information that was a little bit different than what was at the LCAP meeting in November. And so I just wanted to come in and have a little bit of discussion about that. I want to start by saying that it was a bit intimidating to go to the LCAP meeting in November because there was so much information, and which is wonderful, but it was all compacted into an hour and a half. And I love to be informed, and I love to know what's going on so that I can speak intelligently about whatever the topic is. And I felt kind of crushed by information. And I know that I'm an information nerd. I love to get stuff, but I feel like if we want, I know the last one had a lot of people there, and I hope that they felt a little more comfortable than I did. There was a specific topic at the first meeting that we were talking about. There were 8 things that were focused on, 3 outcomes: pupil outcomes, school climate, and parent community engagement. Need my glasses to read my chicken scratch. There was a particular thing that I asked about, and that was class size as being an issue. And the response was there's a study or a collection of studies that have determined that that's a non-issue. And it kind of stepped me back a little bit because that's not my understanding. And I was hoping that was something that we could look into a bit further. And so I actually looked up what was referenced and found a host of complaints about the study, the conglomeration of studies that was cited to me, which I felt kind of like, oh, and I looked around, I saw a few teachers roll eyes on that one too. So I just wanted to talk about that a little bit because I'm concerned that if parents like myself, whatever I am, show up and don't feel comfortable to ask questions and to speak out, and instead are told that, like, hey, there's a bunch of studies and you don't know what you're talking about, it makes me uncomfortable. And I'm somebody who typically likes to find out stuff before I talk, and so I feel like for other people it might make it even worse. So I just want to make sure that we're all sensitive to that kind of stuff. Something that I found had changed between the last one and this one was, of those 3 particular topics, the wording on the school climate had changed, and my understanding it was because there is something in the state wording, and it's not actually in the state wording, because I looked that up too, and so did somebody else. So whoever is putting together the information, it needs to be accurate and clear, and it sometimes feels like there's an agenda. Thank you so much. And I don't like that. I mean, I know that there's not. I just want to make sure that perceptions match what's reality. Thank you. Goodbye.
Great, thank you. Jen? Followed by Cherie.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here today. And good job on the last name, Jen Schwarzentruber. I am a mother of a child at Loma Vista Elementary School. And I'm also going to talk about school climate. So in our country, each year we spend $2.7 billion on hardening schools. Yet there's no conclusive evidence that hardening schools actually prevent school shootings. I've become aware that VUSD is consulting with a company named Strategos for guidance for hardening our schools. As a VUSD parent and resident of Ventura, I can say that after looking at their website, this company does not reflect who we are as a community. People live and move to Ventura because of its pleasant seaside community feel. They leave urban areas to live here. Strategos, imagery, and content on the website in no way reflects this Ventura lifestyle. I fear that our town will be looked upon as somewhere unsafe. People may look to private schools or even other communities to live in. When institutional style bars go up, particularly at our schools, it gives the impression that our community is not safe. To clarify, I am in favor of securing our campuses. We just have to do it with the appropriate type of hardening. The protocols, I feel like protocols and standards should be developed by local school administrators, mental health professionals, stakeholders, local law enforcement, parents, students, and community members. School environments either help or hinder healthy growth and development. Kids spend more than 6 hours a day with their peers and teachers. Increasing school-based mental health services is a proven way to increase school safety. It also promotes a positive school climate and includes teaching students conflict management and emotional coping skills. Research suggests that these efforts support the well-being of students, thereby increasing school safety. We can save money by putting up appropriate fencing like the ones found at Lincoln School. It's very scaled back, it's very minimal, it doesn't seem to be too costly, and put the rest of the money into what really matters for school climate. Schools cannot be hardened enough to prevent gun violence. Hardening measures can actually cause behavioral issues depending on which ones are implemented. Schools can, however, become more physically and psychologically safe so that students can learn and thrive. And I loved what the boys had to say, especially Pacific. All of that relationship is what matters. Thank you.
Can we adjust the volume on that? Thank you. Hey, Sheree.
Oh, wait a second. Yes, let me make sure I have my There's one more for them. Okay, make sure everyone has it. Oh, good evening, esteemed school board. Is the microphone working? Okay, great. Hi, I have a little bit of a PowerPoint here I made. I recently learned about Strategos, which is a company based in Texas, Missouri, and Florida, who has been teaching all of our local schools in the county, including VUSD, about school security. It's a very hardened approach. And if you look at my first page, you'll see that it was scary to me because they're making schools into high security fortresses and no longer friendly places. There's badges, key cards for teachers to enter next at campus, parent ID at the sidewalk. You can't even walk to the office. What if you're an undocumented parent? You have to have an ID. You have to have buzzards and metal detectors and x-ray machines. And parents can't walk their young ones to class. So there's a suspicion of everyone in the name of making us safer. It's kind of an authoritarian approach in a low-trust environment. So if you look at my slides, you'll see the metal detectors and the x-ray machines that they presented to the county. And if you look at the next one, there's the school culture and climate and how they want to secure the perimeter and the visitor access control. And how is this going to affect parent engagement? One of our goals is to increase parent engagement. And we know that the more parents are engaged, the safer it makes the community. And the more connected we are, the safer we are. If you look at the other next page, they have a comment on they don't have anything about gun safety at all. They just say, don't bring your guns to school on their blog. And if you look at the next page, what really concerned me the most was the link to a website or an article that doesn't believe in restorative justice practices. They actually condemn it. And actually the page before that, they actually use the Bible, sadly, to separate and marginalize people. They even say on their website a resurrection of damnation. Now that this has gotten out to the county, you'll see the before and after. They have recently changed their website to make it look a little more friendly marketing-wise. But there was a lot of disturbing things with an us and them mentality that very much concerned me. You can check it out yourself. My last page is the restorative justice not being a policy. They, a lot of these shooters have been suspended many times, and they show that the secretservice.gov shows that suspensions and expulsions and grievances end up creating more violence and self-harm because of isolation. So what I want to say is social isolation is considered by experts the roots of depression, which can lead to violence and self-harm. We want to foster a well-being through a positive school climate and culture, and that'll bring happiness and a sense of belonging, and that will create the strongest path to peace and safety and security. Thank you.
Great, thank you for that. Sounds loud. There's a very loud up here. Okay, thank you. Okay, so that brings us to item 14, action items, request for consideration of 2 new CTE courses, CTE Leadership and Internship Directed Studies, and the CAP Organic Farm to Fork. Dr. Rickard, hi.
Good evening, trustees, President Rodriguez. We brought this item to you on the January 10th agenda, and the board had questions, and I attempted to answer some of those questions in a board memo that I sent on January 13th. And if there are any further questions, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan? Yes. Trustee Dannenberg? Yes. And Trustee Rodriguez? Yes. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Sorry. Request for consideration of the new course, Commercial Photography, and this is a first read.
Thank you again. So this is
That's me, but move to approve. Oh, I like that. A move to approve.
Second that.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Absolutely, yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, item 14C, consideration of resolution 2305 for the Ventura Unified School District formally approving joining the California School Employee Benefit Organization, SIBO, as a new member, and this is a first reading.
Hi, thank you this evening. We are bringing forward to you, this is the formal process in this timeline. It was already ratified and approved by you all, the agreement for us to switch our group purchasing organization to SIBO, and this is the formal process that we need to initiate through your approval in order for us to continue along our timeline for the switch.
Great. Any questions? No. You have a copy of the resolution in your folder. It's also available to the public. So would someone like to make a motion?
I move to approve.
Well, I just had a quick question. I don't know if I'm allowed to do this, but do our association presidents have anything to share, any comments?
It's a thumbs up.
That's a thumbs up.
Okay.
What the record shows.
You have to walk up there.
Hello, Carol Peak, VESPA president. I'm just very happy with the move over because I feel like in the future we'll have the opportunity to offer a plan for part-time employees so it's more affordable. So I think in the future that'll be a really great thing for VESPA. So thank you.
Great. Thank you. So do I have a motion?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
And I'll just add, I agree with Ms. Peak that there's echo again. It's great to have more affordable options and also a variety of options that we can offer to all of our staff. So thank you for the associations being willing to look at this and for the staff to do the work to investigate. Up next, item 14D, VUSD, VUA Memorandum of Understanding for our summer school program.
I would just like to thank the associations for working on these next two items with us to ensure that we're able to advertise and recruit for our summer programs on an earlier timeline to ensure that we have the best opportunities for our students and families for our extended programs. So I'm bringing forward to you this MOU, which is an increase from last year's amounts, a 10% increase from last year's amount for your consideration.
I'll just say, I think it's great because it's been quite a couple of years. So being able to really compensate staff for working during the summers is a nice place to be, and really appreciate those who are willing to step up because we need quite a few people to do that. And both on the classified staff and the certificated, it's great that people are willing to work during the summer. So do we have any questions?
I'll go ahead and move.
I'll second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0. Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Yes, but before we approve, I want to make sure he knows where to sit when we go into. It's clear now? Okay. Motion to approve.
Second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg? And Trustee Rodriguez? Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, item 14G is for our CSBA delegate vote. So we had an opening because one of our local delegates did not get reelected to their seat, and so there was an opening. We didn't have anyone who applied, and so CSBA reached out to me as regional director, and I reached out to some local districts to see who was interested, and Becky Kramer from Pleasant Valley was willing to serve. She's been a trustee for I think 8 years now, and serves in a neighboring district. She's a very thoughtful and serious person. And so she's the only name on our ballot, but you're welcome to ask questions if you have any.
Yes, motion to approve
I'll second.
Rebecca Becky Kramer for our sub-region 11B as our delegate assembly.
Okay. I second.
Thank you. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez? Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Your mic didn't go on.
Item 14H, consider a resolution 2304 to continue to hold virtual meetings. This is a monthly endeavor, and it mostly allows us to have remote meetings for our committees. Obviously, we meet in person.
So I'm just wondering, I kind of bring this up every month that we see it, because we talk about it for committee meetings, but I'm wondering if there's some sort of way that we could look at a hybrid approach, possibly, if we are just to have access to additional participation. I know that it's a whole separate thing to talk about that for board meetings, but I do want us, COVID, one thing that it did help for us, it provided access to many folks to be able to be a part of the process and be a part of what we do, whether it's committees or board meetings. So if possible, I would love us to, as we come across these months, to also be looking at it for a hybrid approach so we can continue to engage and include other folks.
What do you mean when you say a hybrid approach? Like, so public comment remote?
Remember how sometimes we would do it where someone might be at home or on Zoom, but other people may be in the same location? And I know, like, we have to turn on and off, but I'm seeing that we're kind of having to do that tonight as well. But having a different component where folks can be literally in a different spot, not physically here.
You mean board members?
Board members and or for committees.
That's like a VUSD live, like a stream,
If that,
the meeting.
yeah. So I'm only one of 5, but I just, every month we keep talking about this.
Antonio wanted to say something.
Oh, well, that's kind of.
I don't want to share too much detail, but our various district office staff have engaged our subcommittees we've asked them, how would you like to structure the meeting times? And by and large, what several of the subcommittees have stated, they want to be in person. And we've adopted, I don't necessarily like a live hybrid approach, but a hybrid approach to, we are doing some meetings in person, other meetings online. So that was elicited from the feedback of those who had been regular attendees and participants. So we've asked them, and that's what they've asked for. If we were to, which we can always look at like a live hybrid approach. We just need to acknowledge, similar to like today, that there are always issues that arise where it's a challenge for people who are there live to hear what's going on, and then likewise. So it is something we can look at, but then also there have been some updates to to the Brown Act. And so it's not that it can't be done, it just means that there are additional considerations. But going back to my opening point, we have engaged the people in those committees, and they have shared that they like the approach that we've adopted so far. But what we can do, and we have our staff here, we can go back and re-engage them to see if they have desires to be able to operate in a hybrid environment, should we be able to.
No, what I was thinking when I said live is it wouldn't be interactive for the person at home, but they could listen to what's going on. So that's an actual simpler approach, because if you go where, yeah, but I'm talking about for the subcommittees. So that, like we might have 50 other people that might want to be at the LCAP just to listen to what's going on. And then if they have questions, then they say, okay, I need to go to the next meeting. So just a stream of the person doing the presentation.
And I'll just add there, again, it's something we can take a look at. I think Trustee Peterson, the final comment that you made is that it is definitely feasible for that person to be able to hear like a presenter who's close to that device, but it does become problematic for them to hear other people that are in that group. So you're right, like there is a way for them to be able to hear the presenter, but it becomes much more challenging for them to hear any kind of dynamic conversation that takes place.
I move.
Thank you. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg?
Yes.
And Trustee Rodriguez?
Yes.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you very much, Board President Rodriguez, Dr. Castro, and the board. It's my pleasure to offer the 2022 California Dashboard update this evening. So why don't we move ahead to slide number 2 there. This is an update on the changes in the dashboard for this year and also our specific district, our district-specific data. So first, really quick, you'll typically see in dashboards pre-COVID these kinds of dials indicating year-to-year change, and this year we're only seeing status bars, and those bars indicate if you're doing well on something, so you want bars, just like cell phone bars, and then depending upon the metric itself, if it's a metric that you don't want, like chronic absenteeism or suspension, you have to take a look at the language below the bars to see if you're scoring low on that or if you're scoring high on that. So sometimes you want to be high, sometimes you want to be low, but just remember we always want bars. Okay, next slide. And this is for the, I apologize for that font color there, but this is for the benefit of the public, just so they're aware of how to navigate to the dashboard online. That's okay. And you can just go, oh, you clicked on the link, thank you. You can just go to search for California Dashboard, and then you'll type in Ventura Unified School District, and you can click on the metrics and dive into looking at the data yourself. Next slide. Okay, the California Dashboard metrics are organized in sort of 3 categories. Academic performance categories, and there's 4 metrics there. However, that last one, as most of us know, the college and career indicator is not available for this year, so we only have 3 academic performance indicators for this year. And then 2 academic engagement indicators, chronic absenteeism for grades K through 8 only, and graduation rates for high school. And let me go back up above. Apologize for moving a little fast there. The academic data for math, important to say that those are the smarter balanced assessments, grades 3 through 8 and 11 for ELA and math. And then the LP is the English Learner Progress Indicator. And just, again, for the benefit of the public, the college and career indicator is that indicator upon graduation, how many of our students are identified by the state to be prepared for college and career. And there's various ways that you can become identified for prepared for college and career: completing CTE pathways, being UCA to G approved, scoring proficient on ELA and math, Smarter Balanced, dual enrollment courses. So there's a variety of ways to do that, and we'll get a status report on that next year. Okay, and finally, that third category, conditions and climate. And that's the suspension rate. And of course, we have local indicators, and those are self-report, what either we met the standard or not when it comes to sufficient instructional materials, et cetera. Next slide. Okay, so once you navigate to that that site, these are the metrics and clickables that you'll see. So this is the overall view for 2022 for VUSD. High rates of chronic absenteeism, and this is a struggle that most districts had throughout COVID, of course. And again, this is last year's data, 2021-22 school year. And we'll drill down into all of these in a minute. Medium overall rates of suspension, but those vary by group, as does every single one of these metrics, and it's important to talk about that in advance, that these are, we can dive down deeper into each of these and look at student group metrics, performing high or low within them. So this is just a conglomerate sort of summation of how the district is doing in general at this level. And oh, no, let's stay on that last slide. That's okay. And please, at any point, feel free to ask questions, and I'm happy to answer them as we go, because there's a few slides here. That English learner progress, that's the measure of how much progress our English learners are making year to year. Either students are progressing or they're not progressing, or in some cases they're declining based on their previous English language assessment. High graduation rates overall, although we'll talk a little bit about how AB 104, which was the allowance that students who were juniors or seniors and credit deficient during the COVID years, could graduate with state at state minimums. Yeah, President Rodriguez.
So because I know you have like a lot of
yeah, please.
Pause. I don't know if anyone besides me has questions.
I got one. Yeah. Chronic absenteeism. That's common throughout the whole state, right? That's not just a VUSD problem.
Common throughout the whole state. And again, I have this on a later slide, but good to talk about it now. Chronic absenteeism, the state defines it as you are absent 10% or more of the time that you were enrolled. So for a full-time student, 180 days, that's 18 days or more of absences. That would identify that student as chronically absent. And yes, this is, I think, I forget specifically every district's metric in our county, but the vast majority have chronic absenteeism. Now, it might differ by group, but the overall district summation tends to be very high or high chronic absenteeism. Yeah, good question. Thank you.
Well, and then with the number of students that we have COVID, they have to stay out for a whole bunch of time. Normally, have students stay out, so that adds to the problem, right?
That's right. So remember, there were required quarantine days, and that this metric does not take any of that into account. There's no statistical softening of students that were identified for quarantine forced to stay out. So this is just in absolute terms, whether or not they were present in school or not. So it's a challenging metric coming out of COVID.
So I guess my question is, because we have, I mean, these past data it's a moment in time, right? That's always been the frustration with past data. It's one day. Sorry, I'm just the echo. So with these kind of moment in time scores, how does that compare to our internal benchmark testing data that we gather throughout the year? Are you seeing similar trends? I mean, if you're going to bring that back at some later point, you don't have to.
That's a fantastic question. So we do have district benchmarks throughout the year in English language, arts, and math, and in science as well. One of the challenges with Smarter Balanced is that there's a legal allowance for families to opt out. And so if a family opts out, that changes our participation rate and can influence the results. So that's something we're trying to educate families about, not only the benefit for students in terms of we get feedback on their performance and we can shift our instruction based on that, and we can shift programming based on that. But it does also impact these metrics in ways that distort the metric itself. So to answer your question, yes, I wouldn't say that there's a major difference. We know our students struggle in math. Our students, in terms of their proficiency levels, perform higher in ELA than in math, and that's pretty consistent in our district assessments too.
And then the other thing is, I was going to ask if you could, because I know the dashboard has been around for what, like 7 years, I feel like now, but for someone who's looking at this for the first time, the subcategories beneath it, are you going to?
Yeah, I'm going to spend some time on that. Yeah, thank you for that.
All right, did we fix the link on the agenda? Was that, the link is broken, just want to show.
There was no attachment on Friday, but you guys have it now.
Gotcha, thank you.
It'll be added to the website.
Okay, so once again, that college and career indicator, not reported this year, looking forward to having it reported next year. English language arts, again, district-wide, all groups, low, mathematics, same there, and then those are those local metrics standard met or not. So this is, again, just a snapshot of the screen that you'll see when you go onto that VUSD dashboard. So let's dive in a little bit. You can go to the next slide, Marianne, thank you. Okay, so this is graduation rate specifically now. And what this shows is specific student groups at specific performance levels. So all the way from very low graduation rate, fortunately we have no student groups in the very low or low. And then we have specific student groups in the medium, and you can see then also student groups in high and very high. And then no performance levels given for certain students that don't meet the certain number to be able to be reported publicly in this field here. So you can see now that global metric of graduation rates. If you go back one, Marianne, thank you. You can see we have generally a high graduation rate for our district, but then next slide, you can see how we can parse out specific student groups. And so we'll talk a little bit more in summary about what this all means for us. You can go to the next slide. Unless we want to stay here and have some questions, there is a few more slides on graduation rate. Okay.
I do have one question.
Yeah, please.
You talked about not enough numbers to report out. What is the number the state's using for a subgroup to be reported out?
For the dashboard, oh boy, I should know this. Is it? It's not 10. I think it's 10 for CASP. I think it might be a different number for this. Dr. Castro is going to come to my rescue here.
We'll get back to that. But I think when we're looking at the district-wide, that number for district-wide results could be 30, but
Yeah.
we could be off because it changes by school sites versus district. So we'll get that to you.
Yeah, that number 10 is for reporting on in CASP, in Smarter Balance. Yeah, but this is a different number. Yeah, thank you. Good question. Appreciate that. Okay. This is, again, we're continuing here, and this is just another presentation of the metric that we'll see. We can see here students with disabilities, socioeconomically disadvantaged, English learners, Hispanic, homeless. And let's just go to the next slide because it's even more expansive. And for the benefit of the public, you get to this in the dashboard website by clicking on View Detailed Report in the upper right-hand corner. So here in this field, you can see some things that, again, show the fifth-year graduates. So we have a combined 4-year and 5-year graduation rate. And that 4-year and 5-year graduation rates, they're different. They're just like they sound. And so for this metric, they're combined. And we can see the specific rates here and the specific numbers. And I'll just pause here to see if there are any questions.
Yeah, I got a quick question.
Yeah.
Students with disabilities graduate, is that diploma and also?
That's correct. Only diplomas are counted in graduation, not students on certificate.
I understood.
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Okay, I'm happy to come back to this if a question pops up about this as I move on. Just again, graduation rate it's an important metric. It's sort of a capstone metric. We have many important metrics, but I wanted to spend some time on this because this is sort of the contribute how all of our K-12 systems contribute to this one metric, because that's obviously an incredibly important point in time where we prepare students with a diploma to move on to their post-secondary lives. So this is just to put it in county context a little bit. The lower bar on all of these is the statewide metric for graduation, 87.4. So you can see various districts that maintain high schools around the county. You can go to the next slide. And in the bottom right is the Ventura Unified graduation rate of 92% relative to the state. And just, again, to put it into relationship to others throughout the county. So I think in summary here on our graduation rate, we're pleased. We have some work to do with respect to our specific student groups. And I do think it's important to say that nothing on the dashboard is necessarily new to us. There are things that we're well aware of with our own data, because we're the ones that upload the data to the state, where the state then produces the metric. And all of our teams are committed to working on these things, and we have various initiatives and that I think we'll present on at a later time, I think perhaps scheduled for later this month, on interventions and ways that we are working to support our students to improve things like graduation rate, things like academic performance, et cetera. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, we're diving into suspension data here, and then this is where it can be a little confusing looking at the bars versus the descriptor underneath the bars. So remember, we want bars. So we have by group here, you can see we have, if we had very low in that bottom middle row, we have very low suspension data for specific groups, and then above it and to the left we have very high rates of suspension for other specific groups. So this gives us a lens on how our suspensions go across our district. And the suspension data is calculated by one suspension or not. It's not actually multiple suspensions. So, and I can try to answer some questions on how these statistics are constructed, but that's one important thing to note. This does not mean multiple suspensions. This means a single suspension. That's how they're categorized by group.
And Dr. Bayless, I'll just take this opportunity to call out, I looked up the answer to the question. It is a minimum number of 30 for reporting at the district level, with 2 exceptions, and I think it's important to note for the results for foster and homeless, if it's 15, at minimum of 15, they'll report it at the district level. So 30 for everyone else, but 15 for foster youth and homeless, because obviously those populations are much smaller.
Thank you very much. Okay, and as you know, again, this suspension data is data that we keep and we have and we send to the state. And so these are constant conversations that we're having with student support services and principals meetings about how we are preventing and intervening specifically with these groups, knowing that for those groups specifically in the high and very high categories. Next slide. Okay, so now this is the academic data points. There are 4 on the dashboard, with 1 not being present this year. Again, we look forward to that college and career indicator next year. But English language arts, math, and the LP, the English Learner Progress. So let's dive into each one of those individually. Next slide. Okay, so for ELA specifically, now we can see our student groups. And we can see the differences by how they are categorized in terms of very low, low, medium, high, and very high. So this, I think it's important. What you're going to see in these next 2 data points, ELA and math, are significant group differences. And that's why that's written expressly into our LCAP goal number 1. improving student achievement for all students, but specifically to try to decrease that achievement gap, and that's something that we're very focused on, and I look forward to talking a little bit more about how we are working to intervene and with all kinds of long-term interventions as well, and preventative measures, early literacy being one, et cetera. So let's go to the next slide unless there are specific questions on ELA. I'll pause at the end of the academic performance data set. So math, similar.
Sorry. And I apologize. I should have
please.
jumped in earlier, but I don't have a question specific to this, but I do have, I don't know, it's more of a comment probably. When we look at the suspension data, I mean, one of the push and pulls of that is that we do have much more significant behavioral challenges in the last year or two than we've traditionally had on some of our campuses. And so at a future point, when we're going a little deeper on some of the strategies that we're looking at to address this, I would really love to understand better what are some of the resources we're providing to our sites to help them manage, because yes, we want to keep kids at school and not suspend for behavioral issues that can be addressed at school, but recognizing that on a campus, there isn't often a place to put a kid who's acting out or being disruptive. And so what do you do? What are we doing to support our sites in addressing those things so that we can bring that number down?
Yeah, I think that's really well said, and I look forward to presenting on that. I've actually already mobilized our team, specifically our student support services team, to start diving into that when we can present that at the end of this month.
Dr. Bayless, I'll just take the opportunity because it came up earlier in public comment. One of the things that really distinguishes Ventura Unified is our use of restorative practices. So when we talk about addressing not just the academic issues and specifically related to suspension, it's really going to be a good opportunity for the board to hear just how widely implemented our restorative practices are, because that's another push and pull. We are very engaged in that process, and yet at the same time too, we do have some behaviors that are very extreme where we would have to suspend. But either way, Dr. Bayless, if just real quickly, you can talk about even then, what are some of the pre-referral interventions that we use that we would use prior to a suspension? Just if you can list maybe
Sure.
2 or 3 quickly.
So we call them alternate means of correction, and by law, for the vast majority of student misbehavior, we're required to provide alternate means of correction prior to suspending. So it would only be on a repeat offense where we would suspend a student. There's always consultations with administration and consultation with counselors. We have SAP referrals as well. We have a variety of restorative practice tools that we use. I would say that those are the ones that are used most often in the category of alternate means of correction prior to suspension. So is there something more that you'd like me to discuss? Okay, thank you. Okay, thank you for that question, though. Okay, let's go to the next data point, Marianne. Now, our LP, again, this is the third of 4 academic metrics, the third of 3 being shown this year, and it might be a little bit hard to see, so I'll explain these bars. That purple bar at the top, those are that represents the percentage of English learners that progressed or increased in their score from the year prior, at least one whole level. That thin blue bar, that 4.9%, is students that maintained a high level. And then that's aqua, not sure, green. Those are English learners who maintained their level year to year at a lower level, 1, 2, L2H, 3, L3H. And then finally down below, we do have English learners who decreased in their English language proficiency from year to year. So I think in a previous presentation, we were really pleased to note we had a dramatic increase in the number of RFEPs. I think that's important to note here, although that's not necessarily represented here. And again, RFEPs are reclassified fluent English proficient. Those are students that achieve a level that sort of exit them from being identified as ELs, and those students always outperform. There was something else that came through on the the CSBA news update today that those students always outperform even English-only speakers on levels of academic achievement. So we're really proud of our RFEP students. So, any questions specifically on the LP or on English language?
Yeah, is this like related to attendance at all? Do you see that the because what it'd be 54% either they decreased, right? According to this.
So no, we have only a 23% who decreased, 23.5% who decreased.
Oh, the 30% maintained.
Yeah, the 30% maintained a lower level, and that 5%, that 4.9%, they maintained their already established high level from the year prior.
Did you see any correlation to like attendance to the student, or is that even a factor?
Well, that's a great question. You know, in general, we see there is a strong correlation between attendance and academic achievement. There's a strong correlation between attendance and engagement. I think that probably holds true for English language progress, undoubtedly. So, simple answer is yes.
So the data that we're looking at for this metric is all ages, right?
Yes,
so
that's correct.
It's at the
Yeah.
3 places that we test. Is it 3, 4?
So
three, right? Third, fifth.
all ELs test yearly, and so we have this. So if we go back to some of the other metrics, why don't you go back just a couple slides? So again, the ELA and the math, that's grades 3 through 8 and grades 11. So the EL progress monitoring is done yearly. Yeah. So you can go forward a few slides here. Maria.
So I guess, so my question then is, are there disparities, like are there particular places within that grade span that we test where you see dramatic
Oh, I see. That's a good question.
Right? Like is there a bigger shift at the high school level versus the middle school versus elementary school?
You know, I wish Sol were here. She knows that data very well. I know that Dr. Castro knows quite a bit. We talked a little bit at the last principals meeting about how we have many LTELs by the 6th grade year, so I'll let him take this one.
I'll just share briefly that in general, what we see for all learners, including English learners, is an increase in growth through grade 5, a stagnation from 5th to 6th, and because the standards and expectation continue to climb in 7th and 8th, and then there is a gap, right? There won't on the SBAC, ELA, and math. They won't test again until 11th. There's a lot of content that builds from 8th to 11th. So when we say that students are continuing to grow, what that means from a statistical perspective, if they maintain their level of ability to perform at the level where they were, that is actually considered strong growth, because the general national trend is declining performance as students progress through the grades. So it's actually quite challenging. Back to Dr. Bayless's point about English learners, because so many of them, the students who we were talking about during our principals meeting are our long-term English learners, the students who do not reclassify, and these are students who have a lot of skills within the language, but we are working to be able to shore up their ability to use academic language, which is the distinction between what we see in their conversational ability and what's demanded upon these high-level expectations within these types of tests.
Yeah, and that question came up in our LCAT meeting last week, and I think it's worth noting that's been one of maybe 2 through lines the entire year in terms of our professional development with principals. Every time we meet monthly, we have our fantastic multilingual, multicultural TOSAs, along with our ELA TOSA, providing PD to our principals that they will pass on specifically about academic language in the classroom to support our English language learners. And so for those of you who have been able to come to one of the high school RFEP celebrations that have happened in the past, and if not, it's really fun. It's a top 10 event where we celebrate students at the high school that become reclassified English proficient. It really is a celebration because it does sort of defy a little bit of a trend for students to RFEP in high school. So. wonderful for those students. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Next slide. Okay, here's the chronic absenteeism that we referenced earlier, and you can see here how many of our students, this is probably the most student group agnostic it's independent of student group metric that we have. And again, that chronic absenteeism is defined in the upper right-hand corner, as I mentioned, 10% or more. Of the number of days that you were enrolled. So we obviously have work to do here. Some of this is readjusting our messaging and our hopes for how our students come to school, but we recognize that we're still in the process of exiting pandemic and a pandemic mindset, and so we need to make peace with that this metric. So, but I will say that my answer to your question stands. Attendance matters. It really does. Attendance absolutely matters. There's a strong correlation between all the things that we want for students: engagement, academic performance, perseverance. All those things are closely aligned with attendance.
Well, yeah, this kind of answered my question, because my question was actually, was it a disparity between English learners and the other groups? But then I see here it's everybody. It's just clumped together. So
yep.
You wouldn't be able to you wouldn't be able to tell because of the pandemic anyway, because you wouldn't know if they were sick or they just didn't come or we told them to stay home.
Yeah. Well, we do know that absences can, as the pandemic did, impact student groups differently. There are student populations that struggle with maintaining access to Canvas, even though those keeping up in the secondary environment, you can stay on track with Canvas, but certainly that's a challenge for homeless students or for students without the kind of broadband access. So I want to say that attendance is absolutely critical, independent of student group, but we absolutely know from the pandemic, as one recent example of how attendance and not being present in class, relationships with teachers impact students differently.
So if because I want to make sure I understand this, although our overall attendance rate is about 90%.
Yep.
30% of our students fall into the chronically absent category.
That's correct.
So that means they've missed 10% of their school days.
Yeah.
So just want to make sure I was reading that correctly.
Yeah.
Secondly, we've just learned that the county is taking away the emergency designation for COVID after the end of this month. Is there a sense, and you might not know the answer to this, but I'm just going to put it out there anyway, is there a sense that will change how we manage some of those absences, in that they won't be mandated, right? You won't be mandated to stay out for 10 days to come back, because we'll be removing those.
Yeah, there's undoubtedly that will have a positive impact. It's hard to know how much. I think prior to COVID, our sort of ADA, our attendance rate was 95%. Does that sound about right? So 5% difference now is significant, and that also impacts our funding, as we all know. But again, it impacts students' academic achievement and engagement as well. So yeah, the answer is yes. I just don't know how much.
Thank you, Dr. Bellis, for that response. I just want to take this opportunity to also note, when you're on the dashboard, if you just click the states, the same indicator, but you click the state data, we're at 30.1 chronically absent, and this is for students. The state asks us for this reporting to focus on K-8. So there isn't a chronic absence reporting for high school. That's important to note. But in terms of percentage, again, K-8 to K-8 statewide, the chronic absent percent is 30%. So it's a statewide issue, but I want to go back to Trustee Peterson's question. What we know about the pandemic and this data shares is that school matters. And so over the coming months, what you'll see and what we'll be engaging our families in is for them to make these really tough choices, which I think, Trustee Rodriguez, you were talking about, that even though we may be able to say it's okay to send your students because the COVID restrictions have changed, our families are still going to have to make some daily decisions based on the health of their students, and we're going to try and help them navigate that nuance of what it means to be coming back in a quasi post-COVID environment, because our families still have difficult decisions to make about the health of their individual student, the health of their family members. It's not going to be easy. So what I agree with Dr. Bayless, that we will see an improvement, but if we note the level of impact at the statewide, we still have a ways to go. We're going to be dealing with this for at least a couple more years.
The other question I had is at the all-district presentation that we had last week, one of the questions that Dr. Castro asked was kind of what are some of those pervasive questions that you as a staff have that you want us to look at, you want us to dig deeper on. And the group that I was sitting with, a group of educators from one of our sites shared, we have missing kids, right? We have kids who are not just chronically absent, but who have failed to return, and who may or may not have left the community but haven't re-enrolled someplace else, and so they're just missing from our educational system. And aside from what that means and the big picture for them, I'm curious, how does something like that impact us? Like, are we looking at, is there a different subcategory for not just the kid who's out 20 days, right, but the kid who's out 80 days? Like, does that lift a different red flag someplace?
Well, it does lift a different red flag, but not in this metric. That's all captured together. The student that's absent 18 days and the student that is absent 179 days and missing. So we do have attendance teams led by Student Support Services with our assistant principals primarily, and they dig into attendance data, and that attendance data goes out to our counselors. There are home visits. We work with SROs sometime to help us track down students. And obviously this connects with some of the homeless population that we serve. So we do have, all that to say, we do have mechanisms that work to, for those significantly absent students to the point where we don't know where they're at. We have SARB processes and those kind of things, but for the more serious ones, a lot of that's in the homeless service department and trying to locate those students. Yeah. But in terms of finding out that student is not in the boundary anymore, not living in the boundary, and removing them from our rosters, that also is a part of this as well. Okay, next slide. Well, that's it for this. We do have another LCAP meeting, and this is connected to LCAP. Obviously, how we target our services, our actions and services to support these specific student groups is connected to that. But I'm looking forward to presenting more on the interventions and the preventative measures that we're doing in response to these things later in the month, and I think that's coming up February 28th. But just as always, want to plug. Not that we have a lot of room left, because we were bursting at the seams last time, but we can always open up overflow rooms if needed. LCAP is really important, so the more the merrier. Our next meeting is on April 19th from 5:30 to 7. We invite you to everyone to be involved in this conversation and supporting how we provide actions and services for these students, and to get at some of these issues to RSVP so we know how much food to bring. But and of course, thanks to the board members who were present last time. We always enjoy and appreciate their involvement as well. So any questions overall on the dashboard?
No, I just have a comment. So I was at the LCAP meeting, and I think the most interesting part of it, and I think that a lot of the attendees, is when you actually had everybody log in and had everybody go through, and so that they can go through. And I think that was the one of the most interesting parts and most informative parts of the meeting, because sometimes people just say, click this website and you can find everything you need, but we actually spend time going through each section. So I thought that was
thank you.
I thought that was done really well.
I have another question that just jumped in my mind. We used to send home copies of individual test results to students. Do we still do that?
We have those. Yeah, great question. We have those now in queue. So we're trying to shepherd our parents to queue for a variety of reasons, not only because it saves paper and cost, but the more they're engaged in queue, the more they can keep up on their students' progress, the more they can change their contact information and all the things that help us reach out to them. So that's how we communicate out the students' progress report. So we send out a parent square at the roughly sometime in the fall, the moment they're available, and those reports are downloaded into our queue system, and then parents can go in and click on them and see them digitally.
Are those reports from the state?
Yes, yeah.
Dr. Bellis, can you just share real quickly, since we're still talking about the LCAP meeting, and I heard it went incredibly well, that just confirm that our 3 goals through the LCAP remain unchanged to this point?
Yeah, and I appreciate the opportunity to do that. So our 3 goals have remained unchanged. So when we write the LCAP, we get it approved by the county and by the board, and so that it stays unchanged until we formally revise it, and that revision comes to you. The state has 8 goals, one of which is school climate. And those are the LCFF state priorities. And so you sort of base your goals around your needs in relation to those goals. So our goal number 2 is about student safety and student climate, and it's related to the LCFF goal of climate overall.
Dr. Castro, just as a point of clarification from the LCAP meeting, I think maybe what came from the confusion on one of our speakers this evening was that Dr. Bayless had written something a little bit differently, but it was the same thing. And that, he explained it real well, I thought. That was just basically, I think he called it his shorthand for the whole long title of what was in the LCAP. So, I clearly understood what he was talking about.
I appreciate that, and so sometimes we use that shorthand like we use acronyms, and I need to catch myself, and I apologize for that when we say, hey, LCAP goal number 1, achievement. Well, it's more than just achievement. It's decreasing achievement gaps between students. When we talk about climate, we mean safety, we mean all those kinds of other things as well. But yes, the goals, as stated in the LCAP, are unchanged.
There we go. So I did have a question, because I think, we had the public speaker who was sharing kind of, some specific examples, right? But also kind of more of a sense of, like, how are we inviting public participation, and how are we engaging and listening to that participation? So one question I had is, do we give out any information before the meeting for people to kind of have a little bit of a primer before, because it is like drinking from a fire hose, right? Sometimes with all the data.
You know what we do sometimes, and for this last meeting, I didn't. I think we post, and I could be wrong about this. I think we post the agenda, but not necessarily all the links. And I think that's a great comment, and that's a discipline that I'll make sure that I improve on in the future to help those parents.
And while you're working on that, it would be great to get this presentation early, because I'm reading it as you go, which, I mean, I would have probably had twice as many questions if we'd had it, so that we could prepare a little bit better. But thank you. It's great data, and I do really appreciate it. Anything else? Okay. Well.
As a follow-up, though, and before maybe even, I don't know if it can be done before Saturday's special board meeting, but I'm wondering if we have some, and maybe that's something that we can coffer about, because, right, we were at the LCAP meeting, and I say Dr. Jannenberg and Trustee Peterson, and some of you were looking at it for the first time. I see this data every now and again and looked at it right when it was released, but it is eye-opening. But it's one thing to see the data, it's another thing to digest it, and then what does it mean for hours in our systems for policy and budget. So I don't know if I would love insights on what are some, almost like an executive briefing, some bullets of what you're sharing. It could be as simple as, 21 of our 22 K-8 schools are in the very high category, right? So we kind of went over that, hey, this is a prevalent issue and it's prevalent across the state, but just some of those kind of salient points that may be obvious, but then we don't have to think as much. You guys are giving us the information for us to be able to make some of those budgetary decisions and also policy decisions moving forward.
Trustee Callahan, thank you. Your points are well taken. I think what we can do in addition to a board memo is on the 28th, we can have the slides with some of those executive summaries. But I do want to go back to your point about making the data meaningful. I think I hear Dr. Bayless did a great job of walking that LCAP through. I want to reiterate that we, with the principals, we're taking that same approach because it does take multiple times to go through such a vast amount of data and take it from the aggregate down to the student level. We will absolutely will do that, and I think that's a good practice for us. And the and part is that as we really try to understand the data and what it means for us and what it means for a school site and what it means for our district practices, it does take those ongoing conversations. And I'll just take the opportunity to add to, we do, when we know what we're going to present at the LCAP, we do send that information out ahead of time. And we have a couple of members that we take special attention to make sure that they have that information and then they have the opportunity to ask questions ahead of time too. When we know that what we're going to be presenting by the time
I
we come in.
appreciate the process, and I really do feel that this was, the LCAP was well attended. We were looking at meaningful data that was applicable. I do add that many were parents and or teachers that maybe we even walk through how to get your Q data. So that way, because we're looking at all these broad strokes, but at the end of the day, some folks are not only looking for kind of everyone or how this can impact, but they are also looking for where's my kid and all of this. And so just kind of having another opportunity to be able to provide that in that scenario. I do also encourage that as we're setting out this data broadly as a district, I do feel that we need to make it a little easier for everyone to get their individual data, which includes, and I know it's an extra expense, it's paper, but literally includes putting it in their mailbox, putting it into their hands, because not everyone has access to, it's readily available and may need it in more than one spot than logging into Q. I will embarrassingly say that during open house and when this data was released in the end of October, I didn't know how to get into Q. So I had to go up to someone at an open house to ask how to get into Q. So, but that's someone who knows this piece. There are a lot of parents that don't even know to be looking for it. So I do think that we need to be a little bit more, I don't even know if it's proactive, but literally put it in their inbox, put it in their hands, mail it home, so they can see for their own kid what this means. Because as we know, parents are a child's first and most important educator and partner for us as a district.
Thank you.
I appreciate you bringing this and laying it out. I mean, as a parent, we combed over, the dashboard, and there's a lot that is said there and a lot that's not said about our schools. So having that perspective, giving it to the parents, giving it to the public, I think it's such an important thing. So thank you so much for that.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Bayless. I'm going to turn that on. Okay, so this brings us to the consent calendar. Items 16 through 21 are generally considered to be routine in nature. Is there any item that any board member wishes to have pooled for a separate discussion? No? So I don't know what you were going to say, Ms. Callahan, but I was going to just I was just going to highlight item 19D, not for a separate conversation, but there are multiple items listed under the purchase order that exceed the board's stated value. And so those are items that should have come to us separately. But I know it's new team. We're getting back on track. So anyway, I just wanted to mention it, and then I don't need to pull it out for a separate conversation. So do I have a motion for item 16?
And President-
Oh, sorry, you had. Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And if I could just respond to that, we are a team in transition, but we did talk about this today. So Mr. Mirza is aware of the board's priority, what the threshold is for those, and we're going to continue to improve our responsiveness to that. So thank you.
I would even welcome, because we are a new team and in transition, I would welcome, since Sabrina and I were on the committee at the time, and we even have new board members, I would welcome that conversation to kind of reiterate of what our collective understanding is and have discussion, because that might also change, because again, we have new trustees, we have a new CBO, so I would welcome that conversation as well.
Great, thank you. Do I have a motion?
Motion to approve consent calendar.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg? Yes. And Trustee Rodriguez? Yes. Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, should we just amend it? Okay, thank you. Board reports.
I don't have a board report other than what you and I attended. I'll let you explain that as far as the Ventura Education Partnerships, diversity.
You want to talk about the West Side Community Council?
Yes, the West Side Community Council. So I attended the West Side Community Council. They discussed a proposal that's possibly going to the board of the fairgrounds. And it's a quite large of a project. From my understanding, there's some good points and some interesting areas, like a stadium. So there's a lot of discussion around that, and there will continue to be some discussion. I believe there's another meeting February. Oh, gosh. I have it in my calendar. Later in February. I think it's on the 22nd. And that will be talking about the fairgrounds and more in depth, what that proposal is. Yeah. And I believe that's it for me. Thank you.
Well, I did a couple of things. I went to the Buena Ventura basketball game, and it was standing room only. I mean, I was lucky I got a seat, and I came pretty early. So that was exciting. And I spent a little time with the Mrs. Elliott third grade class, went to the farm. They had a great time. I was only able to be there just for a second, but the fish was a big hit. So, Dr. Rickard, that was great. And that's about it. Oh, I went to the Teacher of the Month celebration at EP Foster. And, I've been to several, but it seemed like this one was the most appreciative that I've seen. Like, she was the most surprised and the most humble, and she had the most people there. It was pretty amazing to see just the way that the joy she took in getting it. I know everyone's happy when they get it, but it just seemed it was just something different about that one. So that was a great one to attend.
Yeah, so many of us were at the Ventura County Office of Ed governor's session about the budget with capital advisors, and I thought it was fantastic. And for those of you that would like cliff notes of information, I think it'll be very helpful for us before our meeting and our special board meeting on Saturday. So that was very insightful. And I will say Team Ventura was in the house. We definitely were the most populated participants in the room with at least 10 plus in attendance. So shows that we are absolutely interested in learning and insights to inform us around the budget. So that was wonderful to see. Last Thursday, I participated, as did Dr. Dannenberg, as I said, and Trustee Peterson and the LCAP. Fantastic job. I couldn't stop smiling because there were so many participants there. And I know that's because of the hard work, Marianne and everyone here, to get out there, knock on doors, ask, invite, and welcome folks to our LCAP process. And so that was fantastic. And thank you for the Sharkies. That might have been the trick. And I do want to say, I personally felt, I know I'm a little biased because I am on the board, but I thought it was really warm. It was a connected atmosphere. People felt open to share. I don't know, it just felt like the former Ventura Unified, that culture, that spirit, that love. I just felt it was there. So that's my interpretation. So thank you, good job. And then kind of a shout out for that, we mentioned the survey. The survey is not changing. I also appreciated that we weren't there to discuss what the questions were going to be, but that these questions are going out. It's going to be longitudinal data, and we are going to knock on doors. I did ask, are we going to stop the survey until we get a certain threshold? Because I would love to see, 20% of our population fill out that survey. So I know we have a lot of different ideas about getting the survey out, making sure we're getting feedback, and then getting it back in time to make decisions with it. What a novel idea, and it's fantastic. It's happening because of this team, so thank you. Budget Ventura workshop. Oh, that's it. I'm just really thrilled of some of these. I feel refreshed with our team, and I'm excited to get to some of this really important work, which is budget, policy, our LCAP, and thank you for your service, because I know there's going to be some very long nights coming up. Oh, sorry, did I say that?
Turn off your mic.
Yes.
Well, you already heard about the LCAP, but I also had the privilege of being at the Teacher of the Month, and I would like us to consider maybe bringing our Teachers of the Month to a board meeting to at least recognize them with the whole board and in the TV world. So I would like us to consider doing that in the future, because they can always use more recognition, and I really appreciate everyone that I go to. So,
That's a great idea.
and then I attended the Educational Partnership event for social justice down at the museum Friday night. I think it was Friday night. And that was a well put together program highlighting what our teachers have done on the lines of social justice, and very innovative projects that they had out there. And they had some student performers, and it was a good evening. And then this morning I had the privilege of sitting in on our parent advisory committee that Dr. Bayless again ran, which is an excellent meeting, and again, good participation by the group, and really appreciate all that you do, Dr. Bayless. It jumped in and did a great job. Thank you.
So I apologize now. I have a laundry list here. It's been a busy month. It's so great to be back at our sites. So I attended EP Foster's Family Resource Night last week, I think it was. Maybe it was the week before. And it was great. They had a fantastic attendance from families, and they had resources from all around the county that are available to support families. Everything from resolution on child support issues and health care, dental care, mental health services, and all in English and Spanish for our families to be able to access, and the library was there. I mean, it was just really great, and they had tons of families there taking advantage and making connections and hopefully getting whatever support their families needed. So shout out to the EP Foster counseling and admin team, because they did a great job. I too attended the VEP Art and Social Justice exhibit, and it's just great to have that partnership with the museum, who support our students and really make a space for these important conversations. And my takeaway from that was, that really art is the ideal medium for having our students question and think critically about things, and that showed in the products that they presented. I was at the Ventura County Honor Band concert at Ventura High School on Sunday afternoon, and we had loads of students there. It was a great performance. Just really incredible to see the music, and it was great because the parents who were sitting in front of me, she's an administrator in our district, and her husband had attended the beginning strings concert at their middle school recently, and he was kind of there begrudgingly, and then they played, and it was like, this is not a beginning strings concert, this is so good. I mean, it was just, the music was amazing. So hopefully we can share those. I took some videos. They're probably not very good, but anyway, I was at the very back. I also attended our Special Education District Advisory Committee last week, and I just want to acknowledge that Mr. Vrani is doing great work engaging with our families. It really, the change is palpable in those sessions, and he talked a lot about the parent trainings that they're offering right now. So we've done 2 trainings for parents on the IEP process, where we walk parents through the IEP process so that they fully understand their rights and how to advocate for their students, and really give them the tools to be partners authentically with us in their child's education, which I think is so powerful. And you could really feel the way that the parent reps are responding to that information. The next training is going to be on transitions. So for parents who have a child who's going from elementary school to middle school or middle school to high school, understanding what their options are at those transitions and how to advocate for a placement that best suits their child. I think it's just really powerful, and again, I think that team is just doing great work. I attended the College Area Community Council meeting, and there was a presentation by Matt Levere, who talked about county services and various programs that the county's expanding. But also there was a presentation by a developer who's looking at building, I sent it to you. I think it's 500 apartments at Maple Court, which is the, currently it's office space. It's abuts Anacapa Middle School on the south border, and those office buildings are being torn down for residential development. That's currently slated to be 5 stories high on that boundary. So I think it's important that the community, be aware, engage, understand what that's going to look and feel like for our campus. I attended with Dr. Castro and Mr. Peterson the education workforce housing training with CSBA. So we are continuing through that process. It's really been helpful. I feel like every session we learn a lot about, have more questions. We attended the Ventura County School Board Association meeting 2 weeks ago? Was that last week? I can't remember. It's all a blur. Last week. And it was the presentation on school safety that was mentioned by some of our public speakers this evening. I had already been told about the concerns about strategos from another board member, which I didn't realize they were the consultant for that. I think that is something that the county is looking at, because they're not really a consultant for us, is my understanding. They're a consultant to the county, and that we're a participating group with a larger consortium. My takeaway from that training, which was really, really helpful, and I would recommend any of you who want to get more information, but the chief of police from Oxnard PD was there, and he talked a lot about the realities of creating safe spaces, and it really isn't the infrastructure pieces, but about the work that that you all do in building culture and climate and connecting and understanding who our kids are and what they need and trying to meet them and connect with them. Obviously preparing for the worst, but with a mind towards how we create welcoming spaces. We talked a lot about the collaboration that's now going on between all of the government agencies that would respond in the event of an emergency. So sheriff, PD, fire, all of the resources that come to bear, and having a good strategy so that we're not waiting until a tragedy happens to understand who our partners in moving forward on these things are. And I thought it was great that our county has facilitated that conversation. Obviously, it's raised some questions. And then lastly, I attended a general plan advisory committee for the city 2 weeks ago. And I mention this because we are going to be having more frequent meetings for the next 4 months where we will be specifically talking about each neighborhood. And so it's an opportunity if you wish to engage with specific comments about the plan as it relates to neighborhoods within the city of Ventura. It kind of makes it more manageable because right up until now we've been talking about the whole city, and the meetings are 3.5 hours long, and it's not always tailored. But moving forward, each community will be highlighted. So we'll have a night on Midtown, we'll have a night on downtown, and so if you want to come and participate in the areas that directly impact you, you're welcome to, and I'll send you the dates. And then lastly, after we met last time to do committee assignments, we found out that the Ventura County Regional Energy Alliance, I wrote down the acronym, but I couldn't remember what it stood for, that we do actually need to send someone there. So I have offered to serve as the role, but if somebody else wants it, that's by no means me trying to take that. It is a 3 times a year meeting. But we need an appointee and a representative. So unless someone says they want to come, we need a representative and an alternate is what I meant to say. So after tonight, if you are interested in either of those positions, reach out to me, and then I will communicate that with Amy.
I'll be the alternate.
Okay? Okay. You heard them. He volunteered. Okay. Okay.
Mike wasn't on, no.
And that's it. Sorry for the laundry list.
Marianne, I see you moving forward. I actually want to take the opportunity to make some explicit connections here. Dr. Bayless talked about some of the challenges that our students and families face and what we as educators face in addressing not just longstanding issues, but those that have been accentuated by COVID. Our administrators know that when we talk about equity and social justice, one of the things that I challenge them to do is to operationalize what that looks like. So what I would like to do tonight is to talk a little bit more in detail. Yes, we have some future events coming, but we've spoken tonight a lot about stakeholder engagement and what that means for a district like ours. So when we take a look at our DLAC meetings, our AAPC meetings, and our CDAC meetings, I think based on your comments, you're hearing too that it is not just our intention that we meet for people to convene, but that they have an active role in shaping how our district feels, what we do, what we prioritize. And for that is the way that we go about operationalizing equity. So for people who have participated, we thank those parents and families for their commitment because they give up time, they prioritize this because it's passion, it's a place of passion for them. So we thank them for their continued participation. And for people who are considering whether or not that's something that they want to do, please know that we welcome that participation because that helps us not just meet LCAP goals and not just convene people, but convene for the purpose of making meaningful changes in the direction, some of which we've spoken about tonight. So these are our upcoming events, but also just wanted to make sure I'm making those explicit connections between why these are priorities. And one more explicit connection. When we did our LCAP semi-evaluation, which was required last year, one place where we needed to improve was in the area of stakeholder engagement. I'm really excited and really proud of our team and our community that we're being very responsive to that. But that's kind of our new baseline, and we'll grow from there. So hope to see you at many of these events. Enjoy the days off with your families. And that's all that I have for coming events. Thank you, Maria.
Great, thank you. Future board items, you know this, that we have a board meeting scheduled for February 21st and a Good Beginnings workshop scheduled with Luann on the 22nd, on the 11th, and then on the 22nd. And I believe Luann has reached out to all of you to have a conversation with her about that. Are there any other future board items? Okay. Board and superintendent comments. Any comments, James?
No comment. Thank you.
No comment.
Bandwagon.
Well, I apologize for being sillier than normal tonight because I'm just sleep deprived. But that is our meeting, and there's no reason for us to return to closed session. So, do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
A second.
Thank you. Vote as follows. Trustee Forsythe?
Yes.
Trustee Peterson?
Yes.
Trustee Callahan?
Yes.
Trustee Dannenberg? And Trustee Rodriguez? Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
And I'd like to thank TDC Studios for being here and streaming our meeting. It's always great to have them here, and appreciate you staying so late. And I hope everyone has a great week.